All right, and we are live.
Hey everybody, welcome to Hack Shack Studios and for this installment of Hacks Chat. So um, get your get your seats, sit tight, and and uh, prepare questions. Become part of the chat. That's what this is all about. I'm RT Bear. I've been working in the comics industry for over 30 years now. I've worked for Marvel, DC, Image, you name it, characters, Spider-Man, Batman, Superman, X-Men, and I run a little studio here in California called Hack Shack Studios, and we do comic books here. So our current book is Super Sons, Adventures of Super Sons for DC. The first issue's out right now. And having said that, I would like to introduce my partner in crime, Taylor Grasso. Hey,
Hello.
Taylor.
Hi, I'll be reading your chat today. Feel free to ask any questions.
She will be chatty, reading your chatties. Yeah, so what are you working on, Taylor?
I am working on page 10 of Adventures of Super Sons. What are you working on, Art?
I'm working on the page right after you, page 11. We're working on Adventures of Super Sons 3. Like I said, issue 1's out right now. So we're a little bit behind schedule. So there's probably going to be a fill-in by issue 4, but I'm not sure yet. Hopefully Carlo and I can get stuff done and keep the schedule. Um, but I wanted to start everything with that Taylor was going through some of the archived letters from the original black and white. So you're probably wondering why, or intrigued by the title "Angry, Driven, Sexy." And "Angry, Driven, Sexy" was from a letter that Taylor had come across, and so I want her to read a black and white letter to start off this show. It's pretty good. It's actually pretty good.
It
Go ahead,
is.
Taylor.
All right, so this is from Jeff Hart. I wish he put the date because I'm assuming this is after the first or second issue. So he starts off, Dear Pam, plus Art. I missed out on sending my ballot. Oh no, this is after the first issue. I missed out on sending my ballot in for the name the letters column. You have my approval though. It works nicely. This is a fun book. Exciting read, great visuals, and sweet irony. Irony? Who said anything about irony? Oh, come on. I know it was intentional. Whitney, White, has the darkest, blackest streak in her personality. She's driven by vengeance and attacks without thought or plan. Ooh, there's actually Whitney's angry, violent, driven, and sexy. Not quite the archetype of White. Reed, Reed, black. He's calm, non-violent, and then in parentheses, sort of, motivated by justice, and blonde. The only thing black about his character, besides the twist on his name, seems to be his past exploits with MI10. I'm sure you planned the ironic twist, and I love it. Also, in issue 2, I counted 5 image eyes. Correct me if I'm wrong. I appreciate an artist who adds background details, newspaper headlines, license plates, titles on books, billboards, etc. The details do get noticed and are looked forward to when done with consistency. Congratulations on being picked up for a continuing run as a regular monthly book. I'll be here with you. The television series idea sounded cool to me. I don't mean to be presumptuous, but I'd like to see Whitney and Gray in an issue where they are forced to rely on each other to survive or escape from somewhere such something. It's still early, and you have a lot of story yet to be told, as well as character development. I know, but I am a visionary, and I'm seeing great things for this book.
That's awesome. What was his name again?
His name is Jeff Hart.
Man, I wonder if he's still out there. I would love it if he was listening right now.
That was a pretty good sell for the book, actually.
Yeah, and Jeff was pretty pretty right about the irony and everything. So it was all pretty much planned. And I just thought about like when we do this, come out with the Indiegogo, Taylor, in October. Uh, what are we gonna do? Are we gonna keep the image eyes in there?
I think you should keep the image. We should keep the image eyes for sure.
Should we have some kind of contest, like count the image eyes?
We could. I mean, he revealed. Who knows if he captured all of them? He did reveal the number that he had counted up to, but you might have been crafty and hidden more in there.
Or we could put more in there, or less. Ooh.
Hmm.
Mm.
Hello to everybody in the chat. Shall I read another?
Yeah, let's do that.
There's two more. These are both short. Um, this is from Doug Jones, who wrote his signature several times in different styles.
The Doug Jones, isn't he? Abe Sapien, isn't he? Isn't there an actor named
No.
Doug Jones?
Maybe, who knows? Maybe he was a fan when he was a kid. Again, oh, Dear Art and Pam. I was in my local comic store when I noticed a comic named Black and White. I took it home and read it. I loved it. I was amazed that it was such a good book. I was surprised when I hadn't ever heard of the writer and artist, but I do have a few gripes. Usually at the end of a comic, there's a little box that says, next time, revenge, or something. This one didn't. Um, I wasn't sure it was over. Also, who is this Blackett dude and why does he care about Whitney? For the letters column, how about calling it Dual Reflections or The Image Pool? Well, that's it for now. I love your comic.
It's awesome how invested. It makes it all worthwhile.
I like next time revenge. All right, one more. This is from Ben Pistorius, and he wrote oh wait, this is an important letter here. Dear Black and White, I have one question. If as Blackett says on page 18, if as Blackett says on page 18 is true, and he does really hate guns, then why is he having target practice on the cover and on 21 using an explosive? I really like this comic. What first got me was that it was Image, then the title on the cover. But the content is what will keep me reading. I enjoy original new twists and turns in comics, and Whitney being in an asylum caught me off guard. I hope there are more such surprises in store. I'm anxious to find out what heinous weapons of destruction are under the Samsung land. I like the story, and there's more than enough action. I hope you delve into the relationship between the two main characters in the issue to come. Here is my idea for the letters column name. Black and white and red all over.
Ooh, he got his wish.
He
'Cause that's
did.
what it was called.
So Ben was the one.
So Taylor, what about this gun thing? How are we going to resolve that?
Well.
Are we going to do the usual, like, you'll just have to see?
Well, do you want to reveal? Do you want to reveal that? I guess if they read the book, they'll know.
Yeah, we could talk about it. I think it'll be okay.
Well, it's showcased that Reed's gun is not it's not a normal lethal gun. It's it's non-lethal. It's a special gun that was created for him by Gray. So it's not like a normal. He uses it, but none of the people that get shot with that gun die.
Yeah, what Reed is he's kind of like a recovering spy. So he had the unfortunate disposition of having a conscience when he joined MI6, and we're using the we're calling it MI10. Excuse me, because this is like a far-flung. It's kind of not the far-flung future, but like a fairly, like, I don't know, maybe 20 years into our future kind of story. And so robots and a lot of the tech that's in the story, that's how we explain its existence. But he's kind of was a traditional old school spy, and like I said, he had a conscience, which as a spy, you have to kind of follow orders. You have to do, not think, and a lot of times you have to do some shady things for God and country. And if you had a conscience, or you know had a semblance of right and wrong, I think it would weigh on you. It would be hard for you to do
Mm-hmm.
some of those things, especially in time, as you continue to do it, because maybe when you were younger you thought maybe the ends justify the means. Maybe there's something to this that I'm not getting, because I don't get the whole picture, because heads of state, government, they do, but I'm just kind of the guy that carries out this one specific order. So I always liked the idea that he was a recovering, like a recovering alcoholic, but he's a recovering spy. So he's a guy that's trying to get his life together after spydom, after being this career spy. And so, because he was so amazing as a spy, that he's kind of granted. I made this part up because I don't know what happens when actual spies retire, or if they're a liability, or if they're executed, or I don't really know.
Yeah,
Like,
do they retire?
yeah, can they retire? Can they have normal lives? Because they they seemed like they would know a lot of things. So I don't know how heads of state and governments keep those guys quiet, or just spies in general. Um, and so I just thought that was an intriguing idea. So he's a guy that's trying to get his life together. And so one of the things that he didn't like, is the execution part, the finite, you know, um, part of the job, where a lot of times he was to execute people, and he didn't know these people. He may not have even known what their crimes were,
Mm-hmm.
but he was just to go, execute these orders. And so I thought, like, oh, what if you had a character like that? It could be an interesting character, to play with. And so when he meets Whitney, um, he has to kind of come out of retirement, but he doesn't come out of retirement as a spy, but he still has all the spy training. He still has all the spy isms, but he doesn't want to do it the same way because he didn't like it. So one of the things is the assassination part, or the finite, of killing. And especially now that he's more of a vigilante versus a, spy, he's not sanctioned. He doesn't have a license to kill anymore. So I thought, like, that also would play into it, that he can't just go about killing people, because he doesn't have a government backing him up, and he'll be tried for his crimes. And so, that and his conscience, he had to come up with a different way to take bad guys down. And so one of the things is that he uses, it's more of like a tranquilizer gun. So it's kind of like the way they take animals down, and stuff like that. So it's kind of it is a gun, but it doesn't kill. So there's these gel bullets, and so it's kind of like a paintball gun. So they shoot out of the thing, but when they hit the skin, they paralyze you instantly. And so they could work the same as a gun, as far as bringing people down, but not killing them. So I always thought, like, one of the cool things about Batman is that if you had Batman start killing, I don't think, like, Gotham City would be behind him. Definitely Gordon wouldn't be an ally,
Yeah.
because I think you're pushing the character too far. Because I think it would be hard to argue if he was actually doing good. Like, statistically, you could see crime dwindling down. But if he was killing those guys, I think society, and definitely Gotham PD, would have a problem with it. So I always thought that was a really cool, fine line that they brought into the Batman mythology, that he just couldn't do. And I always thought that that was a really important aspect to the character, because I don't know, as a society, could you get behind one, a guy dressing like a bat being a vigilante, but then being judge, jury, executioner, you know, and that's why I think working with Jim Gordon is so important to the Batman mythology, because Bruce Wayne and Batman do believe in due process. So that's why he works with Gotham PD. He doesn't just, you know, seek vengeance and do things on his own. He works with Gordon and he works within the law as much as possible. You know, he's
Yeah.
still a vigilante. So yeah, that's kind of why, you know, he doesn't use lethal force.
Yeah, I think that's a very insightful observation regarding how Batman could ever work with law enforcement. Um, I think Reed in the story actually says he has the utmost respect for law enforcement. They briefly interact with some policemen.
Yeah, he probably, you know, especially by today's standards, would seem a little corny, but I kind of like the idea, and I think that playing that aspect up, especially with the backdrop of a cynical world, um, is a neat contrast. So you have a guy that's by the book and really an upright guy, kind of trying to deal with situations that aren't that in a world that isn't that. So um, I think it's an interesting concept and idea, and I think it probably has more impact as an idea now than it did in '94, because in '94 it was kind of like my answer to some of the gray area characters that were coming up. And I just didn't think that, you know, I'm not against it. I like reading those stories, but I just thought as a contrast, it might be interesting to do a character that was a little bit more by the book and was a little bit more like held himself to a higher standard. And then, you know, to contrast that, his partner isn't that. Like, White is not that. She is angry, driven, sexy. And what was the fourth one?
Angry, was it angry, driven, violent, and sexy?
Violent and sexy, yeah.
That's a great character pitch for her.
And I think it those four words actually do describe that character to a T.
Yes.
But one of the things is that within the story, you find that her way isn't the right way, and that her way comes with a lot of baggage and comes with a lot of problems that can be solved by doing things in a better way, in a more correct way. And so she kind of learns that, you know, like, not that Reed's always right, but in this case, in this story, that his way of doing it is better, is a better way to take the big bad down.
Yeah. Um, I see that Nasser is in the chat right now.
Hey, NASA, the more I learn about you, the cooler you become.
And congratulations, Nasser. Stardust apparently just crossed 14K.
Yeah, that's sweet.
If any of you guys in the chat watched Mike's channel last night, Art was on there and spoke a lot about black and white and the concept, and a lot about Reed's character and the dynamic of him and Whitney, and it was really good. I thought, Art. I thought you
Oh,
did a very good job.
thank you. Yeah, I'm always really nervous about talking like that. And I think Nasser said something that was pretty amazing. I don't remember which one it was. It all blurs to me after a while. But he said it's because I think he came up with a pitch for Lone Star or something like that, like an elevator pitch. And he said it's always easier to figure out like how to elevator pitch somebody else's concept than your own.
Yes.
Because you don't, like, when it's yours, it's harder because you have all these nuances. You have all this story that you know. And so you want to get all those details in when you start talking about it. But when it's somebody else's, it's easier to see it clearer and to kind of cut through all the detail and just get right to the core of it. And I thought that was a pretty good observation because I definitely suffer from that.
I think everyone does. I definitely agree with that. Um, One of the things you said too that I think is really at the core of black and white as a concept is it came out during a time, you know, in the 90s where characters were all kind of gray area. And I think right now in particular, there really are no black and white characters. They still are very, very gray area.
And like I said, and I think you like them too. I mean, we here like the gray area characters, but I just think that for certain type of stories, it's nice to have the contrast as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that. I like giving people a choice and having different concepts and different ideas out there. And I do think like black and white does get it does get violent at times. And Whitney does do some questionable things, but I think it's it's would be a good right and wrong like moral story for
Yes.
younger people. I wouldn't say like under, what would you say, Taylor, 10,
Um,
9, 10?
I think like maybe an audience of 12 and up.
Yeah, because it's just kind of one scene that we have in the
Oh,
story
yes.
that wouldn't play well, but I do like the idea of like that the morality does play out well in a way that you know um, is a little clearer than some of the newer storylines, especially like I want the DC franchise to do well, and I'm hoping that we never have to suffer through another Zack Snyder
Ugh.
film. Um, but I don't. I definitely think that Zack Snyder didn't understand the hero and the hero's journey and stuff like that. I actually read an article where he says that he doesn't believe in altruism, and I'm like, if you don't believe in altruism, I don't believe you should be doing these characters, especially Superman.
Yeah, that's his whole character concept.
Yeah, it's like what the hell, dude? Like this doesn't even make any sense. I mean, one of the things I like about comic books, especially the older ideas of superheroes, is that, when you're a young person, you're reading these, there's this character that's got your back,
Mm-hmm.
this fantasy character that when all hell breaks loose in the world, that you got these guys and that they do things just because they are good guys. Why does Superman does do what he does is because he can, because he's got a gift and he's going to share it with the world. It's the great powers. It's not just great powers comes great responsibility, because that's kind of meant in a little bit of different context, but it is true that you have a great responsibility to go out and share that with people, help people. It's like if you're a musician or an artist or a writer, or you can fix things like mechanically, or whatever your gift is, I think that you have an obligation to go out in society and to share that with your fellow man, because that is your gift, and we are individual,
Definitely.
but we're also a collective. And I just like that idea.
It's interesting that Reed as a character is an ex-spy because spies are pretty cut and dry gray area characters as an archetype in any spy movie.
Exactly. Yeah, the ends justify the means. Um, with those characters, and I bet you 10 to 1 that most of those spies that are doing the really heavy lifting probably aren't even privy to the reason why.
Oh, yeah.
They're probably just given orders to go here and to do this, make it look like an accident, or whatever the heck it is. I mean, there's probably stuff in the world that happens every day that we have no knowledge that happens. Sometimes it it brings me comfort, and sometimes it absolutely, scares the crap out of me to know that there like these things happen.
Yeah, and we'll probably never know the extent.
Yeah, exactly.
We could easily go into conspiracy theoryville from here, but
This is stuff we talk about continually at the studio. I'm hoping that you guys think this is fun because just opening up the studio to just hanging out and talking is kind of what we wanted to do. Taylor and I wanted to do because it gets a little lonely. It's a little lonely just sitting here drawing. So
it's just us.
yeah, if we can hang with some people, and if there's any fellow artists out there, you know, get up at the drawing board, start working with us, commiserate.
The action artist is here, and Artie says he loves your the black and white, the original ash cans. If you guys are on this channel, you can see the video uploaded before this. We showed off some of the 90s swag in black and white.
The artwork in there's a 8 or 16 page story. We're still going through the archives, so I'm not really sure. And I believe there are pages in that ash can from that story, so they're not in the 3-issue miniseries. So it's kind of like a story that probably took place like right after the 3 issues. So it was a preview, but it was a weird like preview that it was kind of a story like a short story right after the 3-issue miniseries. So it involves Reed coming to terms with his father, and if you read any of the stories, Reed comes from like a family of spies. So I also thought that you have families of like cops and you have families of firefighters. Well, what if you had like a lineage of like um, spies? So Reed finds out that maybe his father was a traitor.
Mm.
So that's what comes out in that story. And yeah, I can't wait to get it in front of you guys. I can't wait to start telling these stories again. It's been 25 years, and I've been sitting on this stuff, on the back burner forever. And until I met Taylor, everything didn't fall into place properly. And we just had a conversation. Oh, I think I just, out of the blue, I just said, hey, you want to read some black and white?
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
I think because I had read Chrono and I liked Chrono, and then um you had talked about black and white a lot, and we were talking about because you had like, I hope this isn't spoiling anything, but you had like whole other concepts for the story because you were talking about revamping it. So I wanted to read it before because all I knew was you had told me some of your revamp ideas, which were um, somewhat different in characterization and stuff. So then I wanted to read. You offered me the original books, and I read them all that one night and really liked them.
Oh, and that's when you came back and you were talking about how this worked and that worked, and that you really liked the sensibilities of the book. And you said they were very 90s, but that they were kind of refreshing, I think, in
Oh
contrast
yes.
to the books out now. And that I hope I'm not putting words in your mouth, but I
No,
think
no.
you said that you absolutely adored like Whitney, like you thought that she was angry, driven, violent, and sexy.
I fell in love with that angry, driven, violent, sexy woman.
And because as a guy and like with more of like, you know, the consciousness going more like sensitive, that I was kind of thinking, you know, maybe she needs to be curbed back a little bit. Maybe she needs to be um, less those things. And then Taylor was like, no, Those things are really awesome, and I think that those things work. And so I started thinking, well, maybe not so much doing this new story arc that I had, and like Taylor was saying, it really was different. It was, I was just calling it a reimagining, but it was really different. And one of these days, we'll talk about it.
And I still thought it was good too, by the way.
Yeah, and I still think that it can be told, but I think that maybe we should just do that um, as something different, like just call it something different, because I think it would still hold up
Oh
um,
yeah.
as a story unto itself. But this one, when she said that, I started thinking maybe we should just kind of rework this version um, and kind of clean it up and kind of remaster it. And then it just became like, oh well, we were going to just do it, um, kind of scan in because the originals are gone. Like all the original color, the files and stuff. Like this was in the '90s, and everything was on film, so it wasn't digital. And so all that stuff is gone. And if you've ever seen comic book film, it's big. It's not tiny. So I tried to contact Image, and it was gone because it's been 25 years. And so I luckily have a lot of the original pages left, but not all of them. So we were thinking, well, we would scan them and just kind of reissue them, with new scans and cleaner artwork and things, and then maybe new coloring. But then as we got in there, we started thinking of like ways to elaborate, ways to kind of make some of these things better. And so the writing started evolving, and then the next thing we knew, we're redrawing stuff, adding new pages, and then we just started. I started working digitally more and more, and started realizing how I could clean these things up, or even redraw, completely redraw over the original artwork. So it is a completely remastered. I don't think, I mean, maybe 20-30% of the original even still exists. How much would you
Yeah.
say?
I would say about. And if you guys want to see some of that before and after work, because Art has put in a lot of work and it really shows, and I think it's really worthwhile to look at the side by side comparisons. Um, we do have a newsletter where we we will post, some previews and stuff, and you can find that on the artbytbear.com. And there's also an official black and white Facebook page where we post stuff just about black and white, and you can see a couple of those up there, and I think they're really worth looking at.
And then Taylor and I had some ideas for a logo, like a new logo, and we put up Taylor's fantastic rendition of the new logo that's there too. So one of the ideas was they were always kind of a yin yang kind of. It was always part of the concept, but as just kind of a more like cynical or contemporary idea to put a gun sight over the yin yang symbol. So it sounds very complex, but somehow Taylor managed to make it work and to make it clear and readable. So I'm really proud of that logo. I think you should be as well, Taylor. It looks really
Thank
good.
you. It was a joint effort. I think we've worked really hard on all this stuff, so we really want you guys to see it. We're doing this for you.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't know how many of you guys are probably all burnt out from all the Comicsgate chat and stuff like that. But man, I had a blast yesterday on Mike's channel, and then I just kind of phoned in my part of support on the Comicsgate Ethan's Comics Gate, so I just kind of typed in and hung out with you guys in the chat. Um, and I mostly did that because I had a ton of work to do, so I could just kind of bop in and out. And but wow, Mike Mike S. Miller, Lone Star, holy crap, man! My hat's off to Mike's perseverance, Ethan, and all the guys, Mitch and everybody else, and the fans. Holy moly, you guys! It was incredible to see how you rallied and how you supported this book. And quite frankly, I think I said it on Mike's, but I'll say it again. I, I'm in a place now after 30 plus years in the industry. I'm dreaming again. I'm starting to think there's things possible with the support that the fan base is bringing to these books. Um, I have all kinds of ideas. Taylor and I are nonstop
Yeah.
about stuff we would like to do, and then with this kind of support, you start dreaming again, because the support for people like what Taylor and I are doing is that means that we can be freed up from other things that we have to do to make us money. And so as somebody that's putting sweat equity into their work and trying to keep a creator own dream alive, it means you have to do things in a part-time way. And it always takes more time, and it's continually frustrating because you get to take, one step forward and then, two steps back, one step forward, two steps back. The two steps back meaning that you have to pay the bills. So you have to do something that's going to, pay your overhead. But with funding of these indie projects like Lone Star and Red Rooster and Cyberfrog and whatever else is out there. I admit I don't really know everything about. I'm still, new coming into this whole thing, but it's amazing that I can actually just start thinking about black and white in a way that we can actually do it, that can work within the time frame, and that can possibly pay us enough that we can do more of these type things. And that's exactly where we want to be.
And I know that Indiegogos, they are a lot of work, and crowdfunding in general is kind of an emotional roller coaster, but it when it comes to indie projects like this, it's a lot of fun actually. It feels less like less like work.
Yeah, because it becomes a labor of love. It's something that you want to do, even though you're probably working twice as hard on it. But it's something that you want to do versus something that you have to do or feel you have to do. I don't want to make it sound like, the day-to-day stuff that we do here is agonizing and horrible, because it's definitely not. I mean, we're working on Robin and Superboy and the DC the DC universe stuff, which is amazing and a blessing unto itself.
Oh yeah.
And I never want to ever seem like I don't I don't love that stuff or love those guys or love these characters, because I definitely do. But as a creative person, I also have these other things that I would like to do as well. And it's now seemingly feasible to do those things.
Um, sorry about that. Star Tiger would like to know how many pages Black and White is going to be.
It's a 3-issue series, and one of the things Taylor and I talked about yesterday was possibly adding new pages to each one of the issues. So right now, I think every issue averages between, well, I'll just say it this way. I believe the first issue is 24 pages, and that's with, I think, a page or two added already. And then the next issue is 26. And if I'm not mistaken, Taylor, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the last issue, issue 3, is 28 pages.
Yes, it's the longest for sure.
Yeah, and those are we've added pages already to the story to kind of flesh them out and to help tell the new version, the remastered version of what we're doing. But like I said, man, if we had time, I would love to do so much stuff. So Taylor and I were talking about pie in the sky stuff yesterday when we were coming up with, we're trying to come up with the Indiegogo campaign, like all the tiers and all the rewards and everything. And while we were doing that, we're saying, a lot of those guys like Red Rooster, Cyberfrog, and even Lone Star, they're offering as one of the push goals extra pages. So we were just like fantasizing, like, what if we had extra pages? What would we be able to do with that? And once again, like I said, the dreaming aspects started coming into the equation, and it was so easy, right, Tanner? I mean, it was like we already knew what could be done.
Yeah, that really comes natural to us, I think.
Yeah, and we came up with 3 amazing pages, just only 3 that would not change the story drastically, but would really enhance the reading of it experience. And it's kind of also taking in consideration we've been reading the letters column for the original run, and we're also like taking in like some of the suggestions, some of the things that people have mentioned there. That's why I like this community as well, because it's so interactive. Yeah, so I hope that answered your question. I don't know what the math is, what 24, 28, and 20, well, 26 and 28, so 60, 70. It's probably close to 80 pages of material.
Altogether?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's without any extended, like, push goal stuff.
Yeah, we do listen to you guys. So if there's something specific that you might want to see in the campaign, we have a lot of ideas. Obviously, we haven't put out there everything that we're going to offer, but if there's something that you guys would like to see, we will listen.
Especially right now, because we're just building it. So there's time to there'll be time while it's running as well, because it's like a living thing. But right now it can be built into the campaign or into the actual stories themselves. So yeah.
People would also like to know if you're backing Stardust, which I believe is Nasser's book.
I just actually took a glance at it this morning. Why is there something I should know about Nasser's book?
People are talking about it a lot in the chat, I think because it just rolled over 14K.
It's what?
It just rolled over 14.
Oh, congratulations, Nasser.
And people are also saying, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys, but I guess Lone Star is still making money. I guess it went on to on demand or in demand.
Oh, it was at, what was it at? 47? What was it? 42? No. What was? Oh my gosh! It was at 72. I'm really mistaken. I think it was 72 something this morning. Yeah.
I guess it's close to 73. So.
Wow.
Pretty good.
Way to go, Idaho. Yeah, Mike's a good guy. I can't wait for the book. I backed it. I didn't know that those guys were able to monitor stuff. So as I backed it, like about, I don't know, 5 minutes later, they're like, "Oh, RT Bear just backed Lone Star." Oh,
did you feel outed?
Yeah.
Nasser says he wants a stretch goal to be he wants a stretch goal to be to get you to work with him.
Yeah, we will talk. If Nasser, if the money's there, this is where my heart is right now, and I would love to just become way more independent minded. and people like you and Edwin and what was it, John, the music guy yesterday. This is exciting stuff because, you know, we all are kind of bringing our own expertise into the group here, and I find it really exciting. And the best part too is that the way Ethan and the way this is all kind of being constructed is it feels like everybody is not expected, but is eager to help each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I was there in the Image days, and everybody, they were nice enough. They were cool guys, and I don't have any beef with any of them. Um, but it was very self. It was very like, what can we get? And there was alliances and things, but I think they felt more like they were alliances because they had to be. But when they had independence or felt like they had independence, then they kind of moved in their own direction. So it felt less as a coherent group that kind of had each other's back, especially as it kept progressing. But excuse me, the thing about the way Ethan is doing this is Ethan doesn't need this community.
Mm-hmm.
Ethan doesn't need any of us. But he's going in, and I don't know, man. I've never met anybody this generous in my life. Is willing to kind of open these doors or help open these doors for everybody, and I find that amazing. And he's eloquent. He's funny. He's smart. He's like the complete package. So if you had somebody being the figurehead for this, or the main voice of this, I know there's Zach and there's other people, but for talking about just Ethan, I find him like really. I'm trying, and I hope he's okay with it. Like he's the contemporary version of Stan Lee. Like he he loves comics. He can talk about comics in a great enthusiastic way. It doesn't sound like he's condescending or that he's putting things down. I think he's very fair-minded. Um,
Sincere.
yeah, he's very sincere about it, and he's very generous with it as well. And I've never met anybody like this in my life. So I'm just kind of keep crossing my fingers and just so excited to be part of this and excited that he and the other guys have even accepted, me and or Taylor and I and this little book called Black and White. Yeah.
Speaking of, Christ Energetics is here. He was,
Oh, that's John,
yeah,
right?
I believe so. The music man.
The Music Man. Yeah. Sorry, John. I'm trying to get everybody's name because we all have these code names like Christ Energetic and I thought Nasser was a code. I didn't know that was his actual name.
Is Nasser his last name?
I believe so. Yeah. So hey, John, welcome to the chat. I was talking to Taylor about what we were saying about a trailer,
Oh,
like
yes.
for Black and White, like music and everything. And Taylor, since I'm doing a lot of talking here and they're probably bored with my voice, why don't you tell them about what we were talking about? Like, because we already have a script, but we were thinking how your music could fit into the script.
Oh, yes. We do have a script for the Indiegogo promotional video, and we're hoping possibly you could compose some music to the way the video is paced. I don't want to give away too much, but it's it's paced in a way kind of a then and now sort of comparison. So we were thinking that music would be an important element in conveying that then and now, if that makes sense, since it is a book from the 90s being brought to the current age.
Well, we're thinking there's like structurally there's three parts to the video. So there's the beginning part, which like Taylor said was a and then there's kind of like a trailer beat, like that just talks about the comic. and then there's a now beat. So Taylor and I were talking about possibly. Well, I should let you go. Go. Possibly music.
Yeah, possibly. I don't know if we want to give away the core concept or not, but that there would be a reveal. So it'd be like kind of back in the 90s. And then when there's a reveal that it's the modern age, the music would change and kind of give it like a musical cue, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess like 3 parts, if you don't mind me
Oh, no, go ahead.
adding. There would be 3 parts, so each one of the parts would have a different musical theme. So sort of like if you took Star Wars, and like when each character comes in, they all have their own theme. So, like Taylor was saying, like a then. So the music would reflect the then, and then there's the contemporary or the trailer thing, and that would be like you and I were talking, John, about like maybe like surf guitars, kind of like a Bond, like dun 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 dun
Yes.
dun 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 dun, and then you'd see the cover of the book, um, of the first issue, and then it would go into the now, and then the music would then be contemporary. Um, so then every time you saw these parts, subconsciously, like the music would help back, like the mood that we were trying to set. So
He says he wants to chat privately about this, but he sounds like he's on board and understands.
that means he's got some ideas.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like to
I
me.
like that. Just remember, we're poor comic book artists, and I'm not sure how much we have to spend.
We would if we could. There's a lot of Ethan love in the chat right now. Oh,
Ethan Love.
Nasser is my first name, says Nasser.
Oh, I almost said that out loud. Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, people are digging the concept. I hope you guys like it. I think you will.
Yeah, we're so excited. I wish we could devote way more time to it right now. I find myself just trying to move faster with the DC stuff, but always holding myself because we always hold ourselves to a
Hmm.
pretty high standard. So we're still trying to do, an amazing job on Super Sons.
Sounds terrific, he says. Speaking of a high standard, Doug Tenapple was also in the chat last night with you guys.
Douglas, he's one of the good guys. He really is.
I know that you guys have kind of a good rapport, I thought.
Well, let's talk from a fan point of view, Taylor. What have what are your favorite Doug creations, I guess, over the years? Animation, video games, comics.
Well, I was born in the 90s, so probably the one I know most prominently was Earthworm Jim,
Yeah.
which is still I feel like that was kind of proto SpongeBob-esque, like before Nickelodeon and everybody started trying to capitalize on like the weird cartoons. Like Earthworm Jim was that first quintessential weird cartoon with a weird name.
Yeah. Yeah. So that would be like number one. So what else would you?
Um, Cat Scratch came out when I was a little older. But I know that was one I always associate him with animation stuff more so than anything else. Um, I actually, unfortunately, and I will change this, but I haven't read a lot of his comic work. I primarily knew him as like a animation um, guy, and I remember probably the most successful one, or the one that they're all successful, but the one I really liked was I think he worked on Freakazoid. Do you remember that?
Yeah. My favorite and I think it's because it was my daughter's jam because she was the right age. Was that cat scratch? Because I remember like she'd just walk around the house like cat scratch, because that was just like the song. I
Oh.
think it just says cat scratch over and over again. And being a guy of the '70s, I'm always like, fever? It's just like, is there like Mr. Nugent involved here? What is this? And so then she's like Mr. Blick, and because there's like three cats, and it's a weird show, but it's cool. They have like a monster truck, and they have like a waiter. It's kind of like a weird Aristocats, kind of like if the Aristocats were cool and fun, and more eccentric. Yeah, a little less uppity, because I think they have like a monster truck, and I think the butler dude takes care of them, and I just remember she absolutely adored it, and I remember talking to Doug at San Diego Comic Con or something like that, and he goes, "Oh, that's cool," and so he had like a production drawing of like Mr. Blick or one of those the cats that was her favorite. And he goes, "Here,
Oh.
give it to your daughter." And
Oh
I
my
was like,
gosh.
"Oh my gosh, this is beyond generous." Brought it home and just melted her heart. It was on the wall. Like she's 21 now. So I think just a couple years ago it finally came down from her wall,
Oh.
and I think she was very begrudging of doing it because she also had a drawing from Tom Bancroft of Mushu, and Mushu was
Wow.
one of her favorites too. And so those came down. So I guess adulthood needs to make way, and childhood has to kind of take the back burner. But yeah, we still have the drawings. They're mine now. They're in my collection.
You just had to wait.
They're in my archives now, Doug.
Did Doug was Doug the person behind the Max?
N-
I didn't someone in the chat mentioned the Max, but maybe he did the animated stuff for
No, I think Doug was. I'm trying to think of. I think he had a third cartoon, and
mm.
I think, God, just look it up. He's got like I think it was the Newts. He's got a lot of creator-owned books, and I'm totally blanking on them now.
If somebody mentioned the Max, I'm like, that does not sound right because that's oh gosh, I forget the creator's
That's Sam
name.
Keith.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't the Max, but I do believe there was a third cartoon show that he had. So he had Cat Scratch, um, he had Earthworm Jim, and then I believe there was something else. He is really, really prolific, and I remember I met him, and I still feel so bad.
It was
But it
just a good
wasn't on.
story. Sorry.
What's that?
This is a good story.
Whenever it starts with like "I feel so bad," a good story. Um, this was San Diego Comic Con before, just as it was getting cool, like big, like Hollywood just started coming in. So there was a moment where it was actually pretty cool. The excitement was there, and comics weren't like just shoveled over to the corner. And everything was still like when Hollywood came in, it was still, you know, related to comic books versus like what do we call it, the good place or whatever.
So they still tried to
Yeah,
tie it in.
somehow to comic books, and because I was working on chronomechanics, and it was quantum mechanics at the time, and I have some friends, and we all shared apartment in Huntington Beach. It's a long story, but we got time to kill.
Well, someone asked about your backstory, getting into the industry, so this is good enough for them
Okay,
for
yeah,
now.
this will kind of be a two prong, and so anyway, we all shared apartment in Huntington Beach, California, and we were just like a block from the beach, from the pier, and we were all in our early 20s, and it was a good time to be alive, and we were all poor though, we were all broke,
Isn't
and
that just how it goes?
yeah, it was good times, but we didn't have any money, kind of like now, and so. Um, Mike went on, Smithson went on to do Hollywood special effects, like makeup effects. So he was nominated for an Academy Award for his design work and makeup application for Fat Bastard in the Austin Powers
Oh yeah.
movies. So he's really, really good. And my other roommate was Daniel Morvick. And if you've ever been to Las Vegas, there's, I believe it's in the MGM Grand, or it might be in Caesars now, but there's a shop called Stupid Idiotic, and he's the brains behind that. So it's kind of a high-end novelty shop like Spencer's, but way, way cooler. And so he did that. But before that, we were kind of like getting to the age where we felt like, we should be doing more. So they had an idea about a production company, like we create a production company. So then the long story short is we did a production company and they put up money to do San Diego Comic Con. And they were so generous that they said the first project that we're going to push is Arts Chronomechanics. And so the table and the booth was pretty elaborate. And my friend was, he did package designs and worked with a lot of Japanese toy companies. So we had a deal, a toy deal for the Chronomechanics, which was, they were like, it was a mechanic set. Like there was like ratchets and they would move and make sounds and stuff like that. And there were a bunch of tools, like really cool tools. So he had put some packaging together, and so we had all those on display. And Mike Smithson, because uh, I was pitching around Hollywood, we had a 3D kind of deal on the table. So he had done a maquette. God, it's about 2.5 feet tall, and so they could scan it and do the computer stuff. And he also did all the maquettes. Well, not all of them, but I think he did a run on all the maquettes. They weren't all used for the first Shrek. So when Taylor and I were over there, she got to see she still has some of the maquettes.
It was very cool.
Yeah. And so anyway, long story short, they were paying for everything. And then Doug kind of came up, and I knew of Doug, but I didn't really know him at the time. And he came up and said, "Hey man, can I plop down at your table and set up?" And we were in the image area at San Diego. And I was like, I don't know. Let me check with the guys. And they were kind of like, who is this guy? What's going on? And so they weren't like overly supportive of it. So I had to tell like Doug, like, sorry. And then I don't know why he still became my friend, but we just kind of started talking and we became friends right after, during that show. And so he kind of inadvertently became my mentor as far as animation and pitching. And he even gave me some great advice just about like self-publishing and stuff, because he was already like well into that, by the time I started putting my toes into the water. And so he gave me some like really great advice. And then every time I would see him at shows and things afterwards, he would still kind of mentor me. And it wasn't the mentoring like BS kind of way. It's like it was like hardcore, like real industry stuff. This is the reality of the situation and stuff like that. And he really seemed to like Chronomechanics. So he was a strong like advocate for that early on. And so he even did a review of Chronomechanics. And stuff like that. So that's my long-winded Doug Tenapple, one of my Doug Tenapple stories. So
Yeah, I like that story a lot.
yeah,
I think Doug Doug liked Chrono Mechanics, which is funny because the main character's name is Doug. Um, if you guys want to check out Chrono Mechanics, Art's other independent project, you should totally go to chronomechanics.com and check out that concept. I personally think it's pretty cool and it's worth looking into. It's very different from black and white, but it's worth taking a look.
the reason she thinks it's cool is because she did all the design work for the website, and I must admit it came out so amazing. It's so well done, and it's not interactive, but there's a lot of there's a lot of fun things on it. So it's not just a site that's trying to sell something. There's bios on the characters. There's previews of the two 48-page graphic novels. There's fun reviews in there. There's a lot of stuff. So yeah, if you guys have some time, check that out.
Yeah, I think it's a very fun world.
And who
Also,
who knows, we might be bringing it back.
also, if you go on the Art by T-Bear website, um, you can see, and if there's some available, you can pick up Art's first Kickstarter book, which was the collected version of Chrono Mechanics.
Oh yeah, yeah. We did a trade a couple years ago where we put everything that was Chrono Mechanics in one collected trade. I think it's over 100 pages. There might even be Doug's review or his uh, his little rundown on Chrono in there. Yeah, it came out really good. I'm really proud of that.
Check it out. It's got time travel and comedy and classic rock.
70s rock. Yes. So I'm finishing up Superboy's hair here. I wish you guys could see this. I wish, I wonder if we could archive some of this, Taylor, and maybe videotape it and then post it after the book comes out, maybe.
Yeah, you guys want to see you want to see a time lapse of Art inking one of these pages? I can't possibly see you saying no. Did you guys watch the time lapse of Art doing the head sketch of Lone Star? We could do something like that.
That was a lot of fun. It was Taylor's brilliant idea to put the music to it, though. So she's also the tech behind this. I'm a little older than her, so I don't quite understand how all this technology works.
But yeah, if you guys want to see it, and it sounds like they do want to see it.
It came out really good. It's fun, and I think when I ink with the brush, there's a lot of fluidity and movement to it, so it's a little more entertaining than I think when I ink with a pen.
When you started out, did you start with a brush?
Yeah, I inked all my early stuff with a brush, and I was emulating kind of nib lines, um, and I just didn't know. Like in the old days, there wasn't like all publishing, superhero stuff, comic books, everything was done in New York, so there wasn't much of a community in California at the time. So, and there wasn't the internet, so I didn't really know where to look or how to find anything, or I had no connections, so I just kind of did with what I felt. So I think I did use like rapidographs, which if anyone's picking up those tools, as far as I'm concerned, they're soulless and they're evil. I think Satan made those tools to mess with us. Like, oh, you can control it better. No, they're horrible. A marker is better than even a rapidograph. I admit that rapidographs have their pluses, just as far as like maybe some template work and stuff, but they're horrible. So yeah, I started working with a brush, and then like I said, there wasn't much of an artist community here. So anyone that was involved with comics, you soon found them or they found you. And so I moved to Orange County and befriended a guy named Rob Liefeld. I don't know. He kind of disappeared after that. I don't know
Oh,
whatever
that young
happened to him.
upstart.
Yeah, he's the young upstart, the young blood. And so we started working together, and he would say, "Why are you doing it the hard way?" And I was like, what do you mean?" And he's like, "You use a brush for everything." And he's like, "This guy uses a pen for that." And I was like, "Well, no, I didn't know that." And so then I started looking into different pen nibs and stuff. And so because of not knowing, I started using a gelot. I forget the number now, but I don't think you can find them anymore. They're a superior tool to these Hunt 102s.
They stopped producing them, right?
I think so. They were like tempered steel, and they were strong, but they were really flexible too, and they didn't wear out as quickly as these 102s. And they were on a bigger holder. They were like those big, like what you think of as a traditional pin holder, with like the hourglass kind of
Hmm.
like pear shape
Yeah.
grip and stuff. Like these 102s are so weird. There's like a lip. There's a edged lip on it.
It
Like,
hurts your finger after
yeah,
a while.
unless you're a child, like your finger fits right on that step that's in the pin. Like,
Yes.
it's so weird. Like, over the years, like, they haven't even perfected these designs. Like, they just seemingly don't care. But anyway, I started using that nib, and I even started influencing other people to use the nib, because with that nib I could do what they started calling, I think Jergens called, like, liquidy inks, and then later at Extreme they started calling it the bloop, and they would call me the bloop meister and stuff like that. But with that tool, it was really easy to do it with. So to me, it felt really natural, because it bent really easy. It was really flexible,
Hmm.
and you could kind of just punctuate the line with that just a little bit of pressure, and get that bloop. And now it's kind of a mainstay in the industry. But that's kind of where that came from. So yeah, I started off with the brush, and then went into the gelots, and then I couldn't find those anymore, and then had to start using the hunts. And the reason I knew about the hunts is because Scott Williams used them, and Scott, and I were working a lot together in those days, because one of us was either inking Jim Lee, or one of us was inking Wills Portaccio. So it would shift from time to time. I would ink Jim, he would ink Wilson, and vice versa. So he started picking up the gelot, and then I started using the hunt. And the only reason I did is because it's just availability. It was hard to get the other ones.
A lot of people in the chat are talking about like various artist tools, and I guess Mitch uses some super expensive pen. They're raving. They're raving about. Apparently, my mic is picking up your voice, so I'm gonna try to turn this down a little bit.
Yeah, we're still learning how to do this. Taylor looked into it, and one of the hardest things, I guess, is to have two people in the same room with microphones, because the microphone picks up the other person, because we're only maybe 10 feet away from each other. But I also think that's what makes this unique and fun, is that it's more conversational between the two of us. So bear with us while we kind of work out the details.
Yeah, we're definitely doing a different sort of system than most. I'm using a headset with like a supposedly a sound blocking mic, but I did order a different mic, so we'll see if that helps. Hopefully the echo isn't too bad. I'm trying to adjust a little bit here.
If it continues, you guys, let us know. If it's seemingly just kind of bringing the show to a halt, we'll definitely do something about it. But what we were thinking is we could put a dividing kind of uh, wall between the two of us. I don't want to do that, because it's a lot of fun being able to work like this. But for the sake of the show, if it works better, we can put up a divider and see if it'll stop each other's mics from picking up. We want it to be good for you.
Yeah, communication is key. Um, I'm not sure how long we've been going now.
Are we talked out? Should we focus?
Yeah,
Try to get these pages done.
let's call it. I'm glad that all of you guys are active in the chat though. We like that interaction.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks a lot. And we're trying to do this more on a regular basis. But with the scheduling and the crazy lifestyles that we have, you never know. But we're going to try to make a way more concentrated effort to do that, because it seems like it's what you guys want. So we're going to deliver. So anyways, you guys have a great what's left of the day. And thanks for tuning in, and see you tomorrow.